Welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is Sir Denver B. This is a shorter, less edity, no instrumentally version of the podcast where I basically get to spill out my thoughts on some of the things that I've seen or that I see, which I feel should be discussed. It's a much shorter version of the typical podcast episodes that I do, and it usually means that I'm probably on break. Just taking some time off to do some R&R so that I can come back feeling a little bit more fresh and revitalized to give you guys mad content. And I want to kick things off with this episode, and more so within this episode, I really want to talk about something that I have, can I say, kind of strayed away from speaking on for quite a while, which is infidelity. Yes, I know I do talk about it from time to time, but I don't talk about it as much as I used to. And yes, that is a conscious decision, but this is one of those instances where I stumbled across a particularly interesting story. Not that it's like very different or anything. It sounds fairly straightforward, in terms of what it is that you would think about it, from whichever camp you're coming from. But it is something that kind of made me think through the whole idea of just how people try to compare one side versus the other in probably a way that may not necessarily make sense. So I'm going to read the story so that y'all can kind of understand the context behind it. Then, when I explain it, it'll make a little bit more sense. So it was posted up on Reddit, and the user had posted up and said, and I quote, "I saw a sad story in one of my Facebook groups. A husband started an affair. When the wife found out, she asked him why. The husband said it was because of her cooking. A few months later, the husband asked if the side chick could come and do meal prep for the family. The wife thought it was a joke and said yes. Now, the side chick shows up every Sunday with groceries and cooks food for the family. The meals are enough for the whole week. The kids are calling her dad's girlfriend, and they love her cooking. Her family and friends are upset with her for entertaining this nonsense, and she doesn't know what to do. My grandfather had 3 wives. I wonder how he introduced them." End quote. Okay, now, having read this, I feel like it was just one of those stories that just sounds very, very miserable. And, it's fairly straightforward. There's no special thought process behind, how you would think about it. Like, it's either you are the type of person that is okay with polygamy, and they'll probably be like, oh, it's okay for a man to get a second woman, blah, blah, blah. Or, men are supposed to be polygamous, blah, blah. Or you're one of those people that's like, well, you play stupid games and you win stupid prizes. Why did she say yes? Or you're probably from the camp that's like, what, that guy is a piece of shit. That is an absolute dirtbag move. How dare you do that to your partner, especially bringing your side chick to the matrimonial home, blah, blah, blah. And the comments kind of did speak within those sorts of routes either way, where people were busy talking about, if the husband brought her to like do the cooking, now imagine if he tells the wife to leave the matrimonial bedroom and then he brings her in every so often, do you know how this is going to affect the kids because you're normalizing it for the kids and this isn't a good thing? Then there was someone that was asking why the guy managed to get the audacity and how he managed to ask the wife that, because that is next level as far as the audacity to ask someone such a question goes. Then there's also the one about, the wife receiving all that disrespect and how wrong that is. And of course, there's going to be someone that will be like, oh, my grandfather had 8 wives and it's not like it's a bad thing. It's totally within the African culture and bullshit like that. And here's the thing, all right? I feel like depending on which camp you're from, you probably already know where your allegiances are. You already know where your opinions are going to lie. Mine kind of went a little bit left field because I decided to think about things a little bit differently and see if I was to make a comparison so that I don't want to say humanize, but kind of make it seem as bad of a situation as it seems to, a lot of other people, to the men that are okay with it, how would I choose to do it? Like, it was something that kind of racked my head for a bit. And after a little bit of thinking, when I thought about it, I was like, you know what, let me go with the protection route. And when I was thinking about that, I was like, okay, now if you were to switch the roles and then this woman started talking to this guy and then, probably the husband finds out that the wife is having an affair and then goes ahead and questions the wife about it. And she's like, oh, this guy protected me this one time when I was expecting you to come and get me, like, for example, from the stage or something, or when I was coming from work because the road isn't very safe. He always walks with me and you don't do that. And can he be walking me and the kids every single time on the way to the house because it's not a very safe sort of place? And I kind of thought about it, and it didn't entirely make sense. Like, I was trying to think about it, and I was trying to be like, okay, this is a good enough comparison. And then I realized that it didn't really work all that well, because there's only so much protection that you can really give someone. And I'm not saying that you don't need to protect anyone these days and it's like ultimately secure, but when you think about it, whether you're male, whether you're female, when was the last time that you had to deal with thugs on a regular basis? Like, when was the last time you had to physically protect yourself, or you had to physically protect your partner from, physical harm? Like, not just even once. You could go with once, but you could say like a bunch of different times. You realize that it's very, very low, the number of times that you'd probably have to do that, if any. And at that point, after realizing that, I kind of had to rethink things a little bit, because it wasn't going to be very sufficient for my comparison. So I went for the next best thing that I could think about, which, kind of goes as far as, what men are required to do, which is usually provide and protect. But I decided to go the provide route. And when I kind of decided to go down that route, considering that provision is such a wide sort of spectrum of responsibilities, I decided to stick to the financial provision, because that's the one that we're known for, or at least that's the one that people like to bring to prominence all the time. And instead of focusing on full financial provision, I figured, let's go with something like school fees, all right? Paying school fees for the kid. It's a struggle that people have from time to time, and it is something that can cause issues for people in a relationship, or at least in a marriage. So let's work on this hypothetical scenario. You guys will kind of follow my train of thought now. So let's say that this man recently found out that the wife has been talking to and has been canoodling with another man that she supposedly seems to know and interact with quite well. Of course, the guy gets pissed off and he decides to confront the wife. The wife decides to defend herself by saying that this man has been helping her, and essentially them in general, with the paying of school fees. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this one's a little bit hard, but let's continue running with it. So the guy's been helping with school fees. That's why he hasn't had to worry so much about school fees for the kids. And, she figured, the guy's been helping out, so, the guy can continue helping out in other areas. And the guy kind of loses his shit, but he keeps quiet, and they stick together. And then at some point, she approaches him and says, hey, babe. Actually, no. Like, at this point, I don't think y'all can call each other babe, because shit, that thing is bad as fuck, though. Anyways, where was I? So she comes and she's like, honey, Martin, let's go with Martin. So Martin, the guy that's been paying the school fees, wanted to come around and sort of just help handle the finances of the house. He kind of just wanted to see where the money is going, so he'll want to check on like the kids' grades and shit, because, he seems like a particularly smart guy. And for you as the husband, you are just totally out of it, and you're like, what the fuck is this woman saying? But you're like, hey, fine, cool. What the hell, I don't care. You're trying to act like you don't give a flying damn about the entire thing. So Martin comes day one. Martin comes the following week, again, same day, same time. Comes, jokes around with the kids, helps with homework, looks at the grades, and is like, oh, you need to do this, this, and this. Oh, I can see that you've been passing. That's really good. And the man is just sitting, and the most that he can do is just watch. He can't even say anything. Dude just sits and watches. How exactly is that guy supposed to function? And how exactly do you help a guy like that? Now, that is probably the closest that I could probably get as far as thinking through the entire thing. The only issue is, when I was trying to think about it, yes, it probably does seem fairly similar, but it's still not a very accurate comparison. Like, you think about it, provision itself is such a big thing that when you try to compare it to what it is that women do, not that I'm trying to, make anything that women do as far as qualities and attributes and characteristics is concerned seem small, but it makes it seem as though it's not accurate of a comparison. Like what, cooking? Like you can easily get around the issue of cooking by just doing like cooking lessons and shit. But you look at provision, like how exactly do you get around that issue? Because it's a very different one. And it's not like it's something that you can particularly teach someone how to get better at. It's not like cooking. Also, cooking seems a lot smaller in comparison to the sort of total provision that men are expected to do in a lot of cases. Because it's not like you can tell someone, like you can just get better at provision the same way you can tell someone that you can get better at cooking. Like last I checked, it's not like you can just tell someone, oh, just get a better, higher paying job, as if, jobs are available like fruits on a tree, just pluck them and, you get one that pays you like $1 million a month. So it's not like you can pull it off the same exact way. But the thing is, we're always trying to make comparisons and we're always trying to make it seem as, okay, if this was in the guy's corner, then this is how we'd probably react. And that's not really the case. If someone was asked to compare provision to something that women do, in that it kind of has to carry a lot of weight and it has to be quite impactful, to the both of you, provided that the both of you are married, some people would even compare it to, your ability to give birth to children. So if you can't produce children, or even to make matters more specific, if, for example, the both of you want to get a girl or a boy, and the wife is constantly getting the gender that is the opposite of what is desired, like now that could maybe start to compare. Like this is kind of the issue that exists here, because there's women that'll be like, that could never compare to provision. And at the end of the day, you look at it, like for the most part, what we do as men and women who have very, very different roles out here is that we try to compare and make it seem like one accurately compares to the other, yet the reality of it is we're mostly comparing apples to oranges. Like, we're always making it seem as though, okay, but if you flip the script, then how would you react to this, and this? But the truth of it is, it's a very, very different script for both sides. So whenever people will try to do that whole comparison of one side versus the other, it can sometimes come out seeming a little bit odd. Because when you listen to some of the guys that try to justify some of this stuff, and they're busy talking about, men should be allowed to be polygamous because, when they were broke, when they were trying to make money here and there, these women weren't giving them the light of day. So why is it that now that they've managed to make the money, that they should just settle on one? Then there's the other argument of, but she'd have probably left you if you weren't doing as well. So why not go and get an extra one if she's not good at cooking? And you listen to some of these arguments and it just does not carry as much weight as some of these guys like to make it seem. Like, of course, the polygamy one, that one I usually just debunk as absolute bull. But when it comes to the justification of the man bringing another woman that he is intimately and sexually involved with, all in the guise of, if this guy wasn't doing as well, the wife would have probably left him for another man either way. Like, it's arguments like that that kind of seem a little bit odd, because when you kind of think about it, if you as a man was actually thinking that way, then I'd probably question your thought process in terms of how you actually selected a partner. Because when you kind of think about it, if you bagged a babe knowing full well that if you went broke, they'd probably leave you, I feel like the problem wasn't with her, it was with you. You knew exactly what you were signing up for, and then now you're busy trying to justify whatever it is that you're doing with the fact that they were going to do something of a quote-unquote near similar level if you weren't doing as great. And at that point, I'm like, the problem was you. The problem wasn't her. You knew what she was going to do. You're the one that just chose to marry her. So eventually the problem just kind of ends up in your territory. But all that to say, like, whatever it is that this supposed husband is doing to the said wife is actually particularly shitty. And however which way you want to try and repackage things, it's not going to change the fact that what he's doing is particularly shitty. Not unless if she was openly in favor of the idea of it, such that she was like, you know what, I am perfectly okay with it, of which you could argue that it was misconstrued that way and misinterpreted that way. Personally, I feel like what the guy is doing is absolutely shitty. And to kind of conclude all of this, what I will say is there's people out here with audacity, because golly, I don't even know how the hell I would be able to approach my partner, my wife, considering that I have seen how women react when you give them negative information. More so partners. Like, I find the capability and the thought process to actually do that to be so wildly out of my level, maybe right now, but just out of my level, to see how this would seem like something I just go and tell my partner and be comfortable with. But then again, I'm not married, but all in all, please just treat your partners well. Guys, just treat your partners well. There's shitty people out here. There's assholes, there's narcissists, like, there's sociopaths and shit. Like, if you're neither one of those, please just treat your partner well. Treat your partner how you would want to be treated by your partner. And hopefully, if the both of you guys are treating each other with a certain level of reciprocity and care and affection, your relationships might probably be doing a hell of a lot better than whatever the hell it is that I read. Either way, I could be wrong, I could be right. I want your thoughts on it. The social media links are in the description below. They rarely ever change. The DMs are always open. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you guys on the next break.